folks, and welcome to this regular meeting of the Montoursville Area School of Directors on this Tuesday, November 8th, 2022. The time is 7:01 p.m. and I'll ask the secretary to take just a general roundtable discussion on our thinking and where we are with the elementary project. No action intended, just to flesh that out to see where we all are at this point in time. So with that, Secretary, would you call the roll?
Also the executive session.
Oh, yeah, well, actually, when we did the minutes, I was going to mention that, but thank you. Yeah, I actually wrote it down. I'm beginning to remember that. So.
Okay. Mr. Albert is absent this evening. Mr. Badger? Here. Dr. Geary, we're expected to be late this evening. Dr. LaCrone?
Here.
Dr. Mathers is absent this evening. Mr. Schimmel?
Here.
Mr. Snell?
Here.
Mr. Ulmer?
Here.
And Mr. Young?
Here.
Okay, with that, I invite all to rise with me and join the salute to the flag and pay attention and make note of the fact that this Friday, of course, is Veterans Day, so keep that in mind as we salute the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I believe there will be a little bit of discussion about Veterans Day activities at the elementary level later on. So, also, just I guess like to make note, just to point out, thanks to Ron, these stars that it's a stitched star on a blue fabric on a red background, and he passed them around tonight, and they have some significance to them. Ron, would you care to describe what they are for us?
What they are is a reminder to thank people that fought for our country, died for our country, and for the flag that we fly every day. And these are actually off of flags that are retired through a ceremony. They cut them off the flags.
And these aren't just silk screen, these are nice stitched little stars, so that's very nice. So thank you, Ron, for that. And at this time, actually, I guess we're at the recognitions and presentations, and I would like to recognize those who have served, are serving, and even plan to serve in our armed forces of the various branches. So I know, Ron, you served. Tell us a little bit about what you did for us.
Well, I was in the military for 3 years. I served all my time in Germany. Our unit was an engineer unit where we were in part of the force to protect the Fulda Gap to keep the East Germans from overtaking West Germany.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for your service, Ron. Todd, I know you served. Tell us a little bit.
Yeah, so I retired in 2019 after 24 years in the Air Force. I was a weapons specialist / aircraft mechanic. Was pretty busy. A lot of stuff. Obviously, I was in September 11th in the Hill Air Force Base and had the generator aircraft and do West Coast Defense for a little while before we packed up and went overseas to fight back in Operation Enduring Freedom and Infinite Justice. Been all over the world. It was a good time. Had a great run. I missed it. Even 3 years later, but made some of the best friends ever made. Good stuff.
Thank you, Todd. We appreciate you being here. Now, I will apologize if I'm missing any others. So, Dale, did you serve? Okay, all right. Well, thank you for the service you provided in the state police for all those years and keeping us safe. Thank you for that level of service. Anybody else? Okay. Yeah. How about Jack? Yeah. You served?
Yeah, I was at 20 months at Fort Rucker, Alabama, worked in a supply room. We did the second phase of warrant officer training. But I'd like to see the base nowadays. It's taken over for all of it. And I met a lot of good people. They knew my situation. They treated me fine. And but I would have done anything anybody said to do. And I don't know, it was good down there in Alabama. Different, not that different, but different. I enjoyed it.
Well, thanks, Jack.
Thanks, Jack.
Okay, are there any other recognitions or presentations that, yeah, let's listen. Any other recognitions, presentations by administration that I'm not aware of? Okay, all right, let's move along now to student representative. Do you have something for us?
So Thursday, Active Decathlon is going to be traveling to, I believe it is Montoursville Valley High School. And they're going to be competing in their first scrimmage of the year. They're going to be competing in social science, art, literature, and essay.
Just hearing nothing else, then we'll move on now to the reading of the minutes. We have the October 11th regular meeting minutes. We have the October 25th work session, and I'll make note that also on November 1 we had an executive session here for safety and security. So I'll take a motion to approve those 2 meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Okay, and I assume no corrections or amendments, so
Yes, October 25th meeting, page 3.
all right.
Sue Berry didn't vote yes and no.
Oh, I probably missed it on of the, I'm sorry.
And over on that page, I requested to have the air quality report put on the website, and I checked today and it's still not on
Right
there.
there. All right.
No, it's not, still going through it.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Okay, then with that, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Right, let's move on now to the approval of the supplemental agenda. We received item P6 for the hiring of the business ed replacement teacher for Josh Haley. So do we have a motion to approve that supplemental addition of it?
Move to approve.
This is the approval of the addition of it to our agenda, not the approval of it itself.
Second.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. That agenda item is added. And this evening also make note that Pastor Leland was called out of town and will not be with us tonight. So we'll move on now to the public comment period, and the public and residents, taxpayers can comment on matters of concern, official action, any deliberation before the board. The public's provided a 3-minute unpaused time frame to tell us who you are and speak to us about what's on your mind.
I can't work this. I'll steal it and sell it. I can't sell nothing. Jack Callahan and that 13 R Street. Yeah, I talked to a girl, and she had a lot of interest in this volleyball. I think there should be a committee set up to review everything, and the sooner we get it, the sooner the better. Why put it off? You're going to get it eventually. Let's start it now, because I think there's interest with the younger girls, and whatever. So I'd like to see a committee set up and, so I go over it and see what it's, what it entails. All right, and then I go to the gym every year, and I talked about this last year. I see Rootenham pushed into a corner, and I don't think that's right. I'd like to see some group over at school redo him over. There isn't that much damage to him or anything, and I'd like to see him put out in the gymnasium someplace, or right where he come into the school. He's on rollers. He can be pushed, but I like to, spruced up to look good, And the last Rootenham made it to Hollywood Circle, and got smashed. So that was years ago. It was a Little Sock came down and got him. And I'd like to see that lady warrior out there in the gymnasium. Whoever painted that, somebody took his or her name off of, I would like to see her name put back up there on the wall where she drew the Indian, or he drew the Indian. I don't know who drew it, but I don't think that was right to take whose ever name off of there, and somebody took it off, and I don't know who gave permission to take it off the wall. I think it should be put back up there. You know where I mean? Does everybody know where I mean? The
Yeah,
female
it was Sandra
Indian.
Huff, yep.
Huh?
Sandra Huff painted that.
Sandra Huff, I don't know her.
Now Sandra Trick.
Trick. All right, I think it should be put back up there. And does anybody know what the old oaken bucket is? Anybody? Come on, Dale. Come on, maybe Ron. That's what we had with Loyalsock. We had a bucket, and Bob Courtney did a real good job on it, and the scores were put on it. And then Loyalsock kept winning heavily. So the bucket must be up there, but I don't think it could ever be resurrected unless it would have to be between the two coaches. And it was pretty good. The cheerleaders would take it for a half, and the other Loyalsock would take it for half, Montoursville would take it for half. And like I said, Bob Courtney, he's the one that put the Indian in on the old basketball court. And he also is the one that designed the bucket and put whatever was on it. And it wasn't cheap. I mean, it was cheap, but it was really done well. Good drivers, I know they are. But I mean, it'd be better for a pet bus, and maybe some kids don't have cars and would like to go to the game. And I think they ought to try to look into pet buses. I know the American Legion paid for the pet buses other years. And I know Dora and Ray Paoli paid for the buses some years too, way back. Not way back, but not that far. But I'd like to see that. And, it's safer, and I don't know what they cost, but I mean, like I said, people paid for them before. And I'd also like to see a pep band. Now, I hear we have a new band director, and I don't know if somebody could relay the message to him. Maybe a pep band would be all right. There's plenty of room in both ends of the gymnasium for, basketball, wrestling, girls basketball, or so on. And maybe some kids would like to put one together and do what they can do. I know when I was in school, our pep band was right in the bleachers. They didn't have no place to do it,
I do know that during games like, I'm laying on the name, Powder Puff.
Yeah.
We have a pep band for that.
Yeah, that's good.
So I might ask them.
Yeah, I mean, you got some talented musicians, and I think they could, maybe some had a guitar or a violin or any stuff that would like to do it. I mean, I don't know, but the old band director says we don't do anything at that time of the year, so that was it. I'll ask one more question. There's a man in the funny papers we all know. His name was what? I can't believe nobody. Come on. A man in the funny papers we all know. His name was? That's it. Who said that? Somebody from the audience?
History.
All right. Way to go.
What was his name?
Hollywood. You hear, his song was by the Hollywood Argyles.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah. So that was it. Well, if you don't want to use the funny papers, somebody taught me if you don't have any wrapping paper, use the funny paper. So, whatever.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks, Jack.
Seeing no one else approaching the podium, we'll move on now to the business manager's report.
We've received copies of the treasurer's reports for the period ending October 31st, 2022 for the general fund and the cafeteria fund, and we are submitting these to the board for your consideration of approval. These are the new reports from the system. You don't have mixed reports this time, so we have our first full month in under the new system.
Second?
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
No budgetary transfers. Presentation of bills, you've received copies of the listing of invoices for the general fund and cafeteria fund for the period ending November 8th, 2022. We are submitting these to the board for your consideration of approval and payment.
Second.
Any questions?
Yes. In 2016, we started putting a description of purchase on these reports so we knew how the taxpayer money was being spent. This report does not say anything about the description. And it would have been irresponsible of me to request a invoice for all these checks. And I think it would be irresponsible of the board, of anybody on the board, to vote to approve these checks without knowing what the description of the purchase is. So I would like to table the motion until we get more information on what these checks are being used for.
We have a motion to table the report, or the presentation of bills, pardon me. Is there a second? Not hearing a second, that motion does die, so we'll move on to additional questions or comments.
So what that shows is people are willing to vote without knowing where their constituents' taxpayers' money is going and what it's being used for. And don't get me wrong, some of this stuff is self-explanatory, like PP&L, the garbage, the haulers, but not everything's self-explanatory.
So if I can comment on that, this is the new system. This is the best report we could find that we have so far. We have them working on seeing about getting us other reports. We were on a call for an hour and a half today working on that. So this is what we have right now. I don't know if we'll have anything different, but you can look through that and see that most of them are common vendors that we use, and the description would be very vague. So if you had concerns, you could have simply emailed me, can you tell me what these ones are for? So this is what we have with our new system, and this was also what was provided last time with the checks also, for the newer checks. So this, you know, if there was great concern with it last time, I think it should have been brought up last time also.
Well, number one, the whole report wasn't just using this system last time. And
No,
number
but
two,
some of them
and
were.
number two, you as business manager should have known that we need to know what.
This is this report that other districts are using to provide to their board.
I don't care what other districts are doing. I go over every check and I need to know where that money's being spent.
Ron, we've heard your concern. You would love to see that level of detail. There are 8 other members that are not so concerned about that. What we are supposed to do as board members is pass a budget that is presented to us. And when we do that, we own the implications of that budget. So regardless of the gory details of how it's being spent, we own it. It's on us. Now, there is a confidence factor here where do we believe our administration and staff are spending our funds in the way they should? And I take that approach. I trust that they're doing the best they can. I don't believe for a second they're wasting funds. So that's my philosophical approach to it. I don't feel the need to go down so far into the weeds.
And that's fine that you're looking at it that way, but if you think back, because I look over and ask for invoices
Yes.
on questionable expenditures, I found an expenditure that was overpaid back here. Joe, you remember that?
Yeah.
And you,
I really am. It's just that that's not how we're approaching it, okay? I don't think we're required by school code to get down into the weeds that deep, but I don't think there's anything that prevents you from taking that approach either, so I'm okay with that, if you know, so.
Well, if you look at the other, list of checks from the past, it's not a detailed explanation. It just tells what that money's being used for, whether it be professional services, whether it be travel, whether it be so on and so forth.
So you've expressed this before, because I know professional technical services bothered you, because it didn't list, who is so-and-so. Then the business office added officials for you.
Exactly.
And what I heard tonight is the business office is working to do the same thing on these new reports.
If we can, I don't know if we can.
So they are looking at it. It's not that it's being ignored. They're looking into it to try to get you the same reports as before. But right now, it can't happen in the current system.
Then I don't know how anybody responsibly can approve the checks without knowing what that money's being spent for, and that's all I got to say about
By looking at the vendors and seeing that if the vendors look like they're vendors that we would be using, that they're not, and if you have a question, you have the right to request it.
it. And I have, and you've been very good about giving me, if I have a question, you've been very good about giving me, every month, the invoice, if I have a question. But I can't, and I can't responsibly ask you to give me an invoice for all the ones that I don't know what that money's being spent for, because there's a lot of them there.
Well, that's your right, and you can come in and look at them too if you would like. You can come in and just look at them all. We're not hiding, we can put them out on the table.
Well, I'm not saying you're hiding anything, I think it should be part of the report.
If I don't know if the system can do that, so I can't make you any promises that I can make that happen, is what
Well,
I'm
keep me
saying.
updated on it.
Okay, any more questions on any of the presentation of bills? Okay, hearing none, then we'll ask for a roll call vote on that.
Mr. Albert,
Yes.
Mr. Badger,
Yes.
Dr. Berry. Yes. Dr. LaCrone,
Yes.
Mr. Schimmel,
Yes?
Mr. Snow,
No.
Mr. Almer,
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on now to the, by the way, Dr. Beery, thank you for your service tonight, and your excuse for being a little tired. She was serving at the poll, so we appreciate what she was doing there. Okay, we'll move on now to the superintendent's report, and by way of that, we'll have the administration. We'll just go around the horn and see what they have to tell us tonight. So we'll move over here to this side tonight, start over here with Mr. Farrar.
Just two things really to highlight on. During the month of November, we do every year, the families and students do a collection of can drive and other foodstuffs that can be used for the Harvest of Hope Food Pantry. And we know that benefits our backpack program here for the schools, and we're great stewards there, but again, they help people in the community. So we call it the turkey trot. We have little turkeys in the hallway, and they have little friendly competitions to which grade level brings in the most over 3 weeks. So we're in the midst of that. And you mentioned, Mr. President, the Veterans Day program, which is this Friday. A little bit different. We're going to do a combined program of both schools. Normally, Mrs. Pelizzi, our librarian, coordinates that and does it at each elementary school, but we decided with the help of Mr. Johnson, we're going to do it here at the high school in the auditorium, bring everybody together, with the veterans on the stage, some surprises for the veterans of the kids performing and recognizing their service. And right now, we're looking right around 100 veterans have signed up, and they do need to register ahead of time. Tomorrow is sort of the deadline for that, because we obviously want to have an accurate count of who we expect as we check them in. And, so again, we have a couple surprises, but again, it's one of the best days of the year for sure, and appreciate my colleagues in the administration and staff for helping out with that, and be a great program for our veterans in our community.
Thank you. Mr. Myers.
Okay, I just want to publicly thank everyone, and having Mrs. Albert as my assistant, and it's been great working with you, and I look forward to the future working with her. She's been a great addition to the team thus far. We just honor our veterans in that way, so that's been pretty successful over the years. I want to thank our staff as well. We are going to be honored at the end of the month, along with Woolsack Valley, at Hershey, the Hershey Convention Center. We just received word yesterday that with Fidelity, our PBIS program, so we'll be honored as well as Woolsack Valley. So looking forward to attend that later on this month. And if you had a chance to stop by McCall to see our scarecrows, we had a fun time with our PBIS Rewards Day last week. A little bit chaotic, but we made it through, and kids had a good time. So looking forward to Thanksgiving coming up and various activities.
Thank you. Mr. Blaze.
I just have two quick things. On the 29th of October, I know we're kind of going back a little bit, but we just had our annual trunk or treat. We had about 300 people. Grilled up some hot dogs, cider, and the kids got to go around. We had about 10 volunteers that volunteered to open their trunks. They had one was Trooper Jen Munn. Hopefully I said her name right. So we really appreciate her coming out, and she had a pretty sweet smoke machine, so kids love that. And then the only other thing I have is we started an after-school program today. We were kind of surprised. We had about 104 kids participating in the whole thing. It's every Tuesday and Thursday for like the next 4 weeks. So we had about 49 kids there today. So we're just moving right along. I have a couple clubs: game club, cooking club, art club, STEM club, kindness club, and homework club. So they're doing quite a bit. Right now, the kindness club is making cards for some of our veterans and things like that. So we're just sending that to them. So other than that, it's business as usual.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Well, report cards went live today for the high school in marking period 1, so that looks pretty good in talking with Mr. We have parent academic conferences on Tuesday the 22nd throughout that day, so we're setting that up and we're working through that with faculty on Wednesday. I want to thank the board for their support with the Commonwealth View adoption of that and that partnership with those universities. I think that opens up a huge opportunity for our students. I know they're interested in that, as well as a lot of parents. We had our first cup rally in I don't know how many years because of COVID, everybody together. So that was interesting and fun. That was planned by our seniors last week. So it was a little, we're sweating a little bit with them planning it, but we got through it. And we're working through course catalog and program updates for building master schedule and course selections for next year, trying to get an early jump on it. And I had an opportunity with Mr. Termina last week to go to the data summit and kind of look at how we can do that in a way that helps us set a really clear trajectory for moving forward. And other than that, things are moving.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Hanner.
Yeah, we have our first secondary transition council meeting coming up on November 11th in the morning, this Friday. And what that is school districts are required to work with their local intermediate units and schedule and offer to our 11th and 12th grade special education students transition meetings. And really what the idea is to bring our local community agencies in, and they're able to talk about the various services that they can provide to our students to kind of help them after they graduate from high school. Some of the various agencies that have attended in the past are the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, which works with our students in terms of job coaching, job placements, and they also help out with the students are looking to learn how to drive. They do some of the driver's safety for that as well. Lycoming Clinton County Mental Health Services and Intellectual Disability Services, they're just case management for students that can kind of help them navigate the system after they graduate. Penn College usually comes, and as well as the Center for Independent Living and CareerLink. So we're looking forward to our first upcoming meeting on November 11th, and we'll be scheduling these throughout the remainder of the school year, so our students have an opportunity to see what's available to them once they graduate, how those agencies can help out. On November 21st, we have a professional development day here. Andrea Schmucker and Dana Vermilia, both from Glass IU 17, presented in the fall for our staff on de-escalation strategies and the universal design for learning. For our elementary staff, this time when they come, they'll be presenting that same content to our high school staff. And then the final thing that I had is Patty Confer, who is a learning support teacher and a gifted teacher at McCall Middle School. She was able to attend the Pennsylvania Association for Gifted Education Conference on October 17th and 18th. And then our school psychologist, Wendy Baker, attended the Association for School Psychologists Pennsylvania Fall Conference on November 2nd. And both of those folks will be presenting at our upcoming November Special Ed Department meeting on what they learned at their conferences.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Albert, yeah. You didn't know I was going to call on you, did you?
No, I didn't.
Let's see how good you are.
I thought I dodged a bullet when they were I just like to thank the admin team and just McCall in general, just the warm welcome and taking me in and teaching me. So I'm loving it so far. So thank you.
This room that you guys have asked us to do to convert these meetings over to Zoom. I'm hoping to have that completed by the end of the month so that we can switch over to that platform in December, but I'll keep you all posted as we make progress.
How you doing, Joe?
Joe has batteries for everybody.
Just doing my battery duty again.
All right. Anything to add to the equation tonight?
We're just finishing up a bunch of projects, fencing and wire and stone.
What's that red light?
You're next, that means. Just working on projects, like batteries.
Okay. All right, and I guess to round it off, Mr. Terminus, what do you have?
I have nothing to add to everybody's reports.
Okay, they stole your thunder. Okay, that's what you're supposed to do. All right.
That is.
Okay, I guess with that then, let's move on to the agenda items. And with the board's consent, I think we can group G1 through G7 unless someone would like a separation. You want to take a peek at that? And if you'd like a separation, we'll do that. Otherwise, I'd like to just do G1 through G7 all together. So if no one sees a need to separate, I'll take a motion to approve the general items G1 through G7.
Second.
Questions on any of them?
Yes. G5 and G7, on both of them, what's the yearly cost after the initial investment?
G5 will be navigate 360. $7,170 for G5. And G7 will be none.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Then moving to personnel, I believe P1 through P5. Again, we can do them as a group. We'll of course do P6 separately because it's supplemental. So P1 through P5, do you see any basis to separate anything? And if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve P1 through P5.
Move to approve. Second.
Any questions on any of those? Personnel typically won't be much, but I guess we should recognize Margaret Blackwell for the 27 years of serving our district. That's quite a run, and we thank her for a long service, so appreciate that very much. So, P6, the approval of the addition of the professional staff, the business education teacher that will be replacing Josh Haley, who is leaving. So you see there the rate of pay at master's degree 7th step up to $62,704. And I think that reflects the fact that it's very hard to get somebody to come in fresh out of college for 45 or whatever our base salary is. We the specialty, and we want good people teaching our kids. So that's the reason he's coming in at 7th. It's hard to find quality sometimes in these unique staff positions. So we've got a good staff position here. Anyway, motion to approve P6. Do we have?
Approve.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay. Moving on then to transportation, item T1, approval of the promised land busing rates in the amounts of $3,097.59 and $23.80.25 for October. We have a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions on any of that?
Yes. Brandy, do we transport any students from other schools?
We were helping one school out at one point, but we are no longer doing that.
When we do transport students from other schools, how are we reimbursed? What's the,
We bill them.
yeah, I realize that, but how do you determine the cost?
The mileage, just like we do everything.
Well, we pay the bus and mileage. Let me get this straight. If there's 3 students on a particular bus and one of them is being transported for another school district, do we cut the cost 3 ways?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. That's all.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. And policies, PY1, the approval of the second and final readings of the 805.1, the relations with law enforcement agencies, 805.2, school security personnel. Do we have a motion to approve those?
Motion approved. Second.
Any questions?
Yes. I'm curious, can anybody answer this question? We are getting everything in place in case we vote to hire armed security. Why haven't we done that vote yet?
It's just the process and the route we've taken, Ron. I mean, we could have voted 6 weeks ago, do we want armed security? That just means we want armed security. We basically saw a consensus on the board that, there's enough board members want to move forward with this, and so the pieces of the puzzle to finally make it happen we're putting those pieces in the puzzle right now. So, yeah, we could have had that motion, but it doesn't really accomplish anything because the administration.
I mean, a consensus is not a vote.
True.
If we're going to have armed security, or we're not going to have armed security, it needs to be brought for a vote. And I don't know why we're holding off on that vote when we're doing all these steps.
Well, we can add that to the agenda. I mean, I said last meeting,
I brought it up last meeting,
but you didn't ask.
And he had asked, he said if that's what you want, someone needs to make that motion.
Yeah, we can do that. We can't do it tonight, of course.
From an admin perspective, positions that have been added, we've gone through this process. It's been job description, policy, and then the hire. So if you want that to change, the board as a whole needs to let the admin know if we're going to operate different moving forward. This isn't any different than what we did for assistant superintendent, the assistant principal at McCall. We brought job descriptions, any policies that were associated with that, and then we did the hiring. So if you want to change that moving forward, the board needs to let us know. We're just going based on the past few positions that have been hired in the district. This is the process, and this is from an admin perspective. This is the process that we've gone through for this board. If that needs to change, the board as a whole can let us know. And we'll bring the recommendation of hiring whatever it happens to be next time first, and then go through putting the pieces of the puzzle together. So, but if that's a concern, and if it's a concern of the whole board, someone can make that motion, it can be seconded, and you can vote it up or vote it down. So that's why it's going in this direction.
Well, I think this is a little bit different, and I would like it brought up for a vote to decide if we're hiring armed. Well, we can do it in the work session. Oh, we don't have the work session this month, that's right.
Yeah. I think one of the things about doing it piece by piece too, Ron, for me, it helps me process each step of the way, and sort of makes me, because we've sort of fast-tracked this, we've acknowledged that we want to make this happen, so the turn of the year is in place. It also helps me think the process through as I go, instead of having voted here, yeah, I want to do it, and then maybe someone or one board member, when we're done with this process, is going to say, it isn't what I thought, I don't think I'm for it anymore. So that, for me, that this works to do it this way, and I don't think there's anything technically wrong with it.
Well, my concern is the time being wasted if it got voted down.
Well, then you could call for a special meeting to get this resolved. It's been discussed since June, I believe, we started this.
Yeah.
So you could call for a special meeting to wrap this up, and we can start our interviews and hire. Actually, we have interviews scheduled for tomorrow.
Yeah, I think we need today was the last day
Yep.
for anybody to apply.
Yep.
I think we need a special meeting with the time frame that we're under for the training aspect for whoever's hired. That's critically important to be able to get this up and running by the 3rd.
Yeah, and I was going to say that, Dave, too, that we
See,
are likely to have a special meeting, if not next week, week after at the latest, to actually say we're going to hire people. And that then becomes the affirmation that, yes, we wanted it, and here it is, we're hiring people. So I get it, it's not the process you think it should be, Ron, but ultimately it's going to be what the board is wanting to move forward with, and the administration's working with it. I understand what you're saying, but I don't know. I'm okay with the way we're doing it, I really am. And I don't think, we've not heard anything from legal that we're screwing this up. Believe me, there's no issues there whatsoever, so.
Wait, are we gonna vote on the issue in general, or the next vote is gonna be when specific people have been offered a job?
Well, that's interesting, because if in 1 to 2 weeks, we probably are going to have a special session. If it looks like there are qualified people and the comfort level with administration is that we've got the people, then there's no reason not to have a special session to hire these people. That essentially says, yes, we're moving forward with armed security. If it falls apart because there's just not people, that's another issue altogether. And then, Ron, your point's taken. We spent a lot of time on this. I'm okay with this learning process. I have no regrets regardless, but yeah, that's a risk. So, and if that occurs, then obviously in December, we don't need to have that approval of the armed security, because we just hired, a handful of people, so. So just stay tuned, we that's moving along with administration. All right.
Well, I think that the vote to hire armed security should be in front of the vote to hire the people to put in that position. And I think the sooner we do that, the better for the training and
I missed the first part of that, Ron, I'm sorry.
well, I think the vote to whether we're going to approve armed security or not should be done before a vote is taken to hire people for those positions. So,
Which can be, from my understanding, which can be accomplished at the special meeting.
and it can be done at the same time, correct?
But
It's the same
again, the
meeting.
policy needed, to my understanding, and although I'm new to this, my understanding was the policies needed to be out, so we knew the qualifications and the job descriptions as far as what we were looking for. Once we get these approved, then we can move forward, as you said, that's why they did the posting for the positions. and then the interviews. So the next, hopefully, the meeting, a special meeting on the 15th, hopefully, we'll be able to bring those forward to you after the interview process tomorrow.
And how many people applied for the interview?
Well, we're probably,
we're
we're on the
policy
policy.
discussion.
We can have that, let's save that discussion for a little bit, okay? Because we're sort of off the track a little bit. We're on the policies here. So, all right. Any other questions on the policies or anything like that that pertain to the motion itself? All right, hearing none, all in favor of approving these two policies, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay. All right, and on the PY2, approval of the changes to the organizational chart, which is under policy 008. We got a fresh, clean, nice, pretty color copy tonight. I'll take a motion to approve that.
Motion approved.
We have a second. Any questions on the chart? Okay, hearing none then. All in favor of approving policy 008, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, ayes have it. And I guess that concludes our agenda items. And we move on now to other reports, committee reports. The Vice President's not here, so I guess I'll walk us through the committee reports. PSBA, of course, that's Scotty, so nothing there tonight. Policy Committee, nothing today. IU Representative.
Oh, two interesting things. The IU Technology Division is going to start offering services to schools such as a 911 service where if a teacher calls 911 from the classroom, it actually shows the specific location of the classroom, not just that the school is calling 911, and some services for exterior doors in terms of alerting if they're propped and things like that. So I thought that was interesting that they're offering some of those services.
I guess we're on to LCTC. I mentioned that White said we had a new executive director hired a few months ago, and he's doing an excellent job. And I get the emailings from him on just updates and reports, and I'll start forwarding those to you because I think you'll appreciate. It's just not a mountain of information, but just enough information. The superintendent actually has attended a couple of meetings here recently, and gave a report on that as well. As far as she mentioned the building program, potential building program. We're looking to have a feasibility study report, if not next month, the month after, and I guess the board, the JOC is just looking. I don't know if there's that much interest, but the fact that Hughesville School District is in the midst of an expansion and renovation project, it would make sense to evaluate it while they're doing construction on their facilities because the JOCs do lease that from Hughesville. So that's what's going on there. I don't know where it'll go. First thing that has to happen is you have to establish that is there a need? Is there a program that we should have in place that offers, that meets a need in the business community, industry, whatever, and we really haven't taken those steps to say, aha, here's a program that will meet this sector, and it's going to have longevity because you aren't going to do it for 2 years and then the program collapses. So you want to know that program will be there for decades, and you're not going to add on if you don't think it's going to be there for decades. So that's where it is. It's very, I'm going to call it preliminary, so I'll keep you posted on where that might go, where it might not go. So that's at Memorial Gardens.
Fundraising continued. The major part of the renovation project is underway. I'm sure you happened to have walked by the memorial. Great progress is being made by the passengers. The brick walkway has been removed, and Joe helped me out on this. There are some bricks were saved for folks that would be interested in having a keepsake.
And we kept 2 pallets of brick for whatever the board decided they wanted to do with it at that time.
So I don't know if I'm premature in making an announcement, but I know that there were a few bricks taken by some of the volunteers at our work day on Saturday, so. How we're located out back and,
I just have them sitting here for you, whatever you
yeah,
want.
it's probably, it's first come, first served.
Okay. And the other ones are safe, by the way, so.
Yeah.
To be clear.
Oh, yes.
I have.
We are, there were several bricks that of course had the names of folks, and those are gonna be repurposed in one site.
How about the budget?
Nothing to report tonight.
Okay, how about buildings and grounds there, Mr. Albert?
No, I have nothing.
Okay, and Dale, back to you to the foundation.
Tomorrow, good night. Looking forward to seeing many of you there. I told Mr. Badger to bring his checkbook. There's gonna be basket raffles, it's gonna be 50-50. That really is the mechanism that we use to raise some money. So, looking forward again to a good time, so.
All right, and let's see, extracurricular, anything to report, Mr. Badger?
Nothing to report.
Okay, all right. With that, then we'll move on. Before we get to the public, final public comment section, Ron, we can jump back over to the, carry that discussion on, if you'd like, on the, on just the whole hiring process for the armed security and all that, if you'd like to discuss it some more. Then we'll move on to just discussing the elementary projects. Any more, Dale?
Oh, an afterthought, Memorial Gardens. I completely skipped Mr. Conville is out there in the audience that, he and I would represent 2/3 of the committee, so. Scott, is that okay or not the?
No, absolutely, they're there for the taking, so.
Okay.
They sit to the back of the school and whoever stacked them did a fine job, so they're there to go. So help yourself. Once they're gone, they're gone.
Okay, it's official.
They're good.
Okay, all right. Okay. So, any more discussion on the hiring process and related to the armed security? Obviously, we can't delve too deeply into personnel, but any questions? Okay, all right. Well, let's take a moment then, just I guess to see where we're sitting on regarding the elementary project. And I'll lead off the bat. I've been thinking about, we've all been thinking about this, and I was not taken back, but I was surprised when I saw that the one particular trend line for district population was enrollment population was actually trending pretty doggone accurately, and I was surprised. I did not think it would, and so it made me rethink a little bit about, because I expected that the Valley would, sometime around the decade, turn of the decade or shortly thereafter, just by sheer numbers, it would be a foregone conclusion. There's too few students. We can consolidate and in lighter without an expansion project lighter and minimize the cost. And now I think it's going to happen sooner than I was in my mind thinking it would happen. And I haven't really favored an expansion project. I haven't favored closing the Valley, but I am now convinced that the Valley probably for a future board is going to close sooner than expected, just because of the numbers. It's just going to be so obvious. So with that, I'm kind of retreating from option 8, the HVAC project myself, because I think in 4 or 5 years, I think a future board is going to say, it looks like it's getting close to time to close the Valley, and we won't need to expand lighter, and we just fix lighter at that point in time. So I'm favoring just what we've deemed, what we call option 0, which is the maintenance plan. Just keep maintaining and see what transpires over the next 4 to 5 years, because our enrollment continues to decline, and that's just an ugly reality. So that's kind of where I am with it. I'm just now in the option 0 camp, I guess.
I would, and I think what are we at, 635 or 630? I think we should agree on a number, probably somewhere between 500 and 550, at which it's fiscally irresponsible to maintain 2 schools, and maybe reevaluate October 2023 and October 2024. I mean, one of those Octobers, I think a decision is going to have to be made. But like you said, if we go down from 635 and we're approaching 550, I think somewhere in there is the mark that 2 separate elementary schools just does not make financial sense. Another interesting thing is at the IU meeting, 3 different districts who've approved building projects, when they shopped out the financing, the interest rates are so high, they've decided to put holds on all 3 building projects. So I think it's even more of an easier decision, just given that the interest rates make borrowing right now an unwise decision.
One of those also bid double what estimates were.
Okay, so
yeah.
so I think those 2 things combined, I say check back in next October, check back in the October after that. A decision has to be made before the valley needs a roof, I think, but I agree with you.
Others?
Joe, can you speak to anything that we need to do sooner rather than later?
Yeah, that's a tough, it's like a magic ball. I don't know when a boiler's gonna fail. I just know the stuff is getting old and needs to be dealt with. The roof, the boilers, the heating system in general through all the units is running well, but you just don't know. When it goes, it's gonna go, like the electrical, you know what I mean? So that's what's got me going on all this and got me a little, nervous to get, something going. Because we said we didn't do anything, and I'm gonna have to take my building budgets and stuff and start doing stuff to this building. All of it. It is what it is. We have to maintain the security in them. We have to maintain the fire alarms, the electrical, the sound systems. It's gotta keep going, and it's really,
So you'll still see money going into those if this lands on option 0. You're going to have to do something with the term as you continue to look at numbers and evaluate. So there will be some money spent on that, some of which can, as we said in our presentations, can be done through the building budgets, the maintenance budget, and we do have capital that we can spend some of. You don't want to spend all of that because you need that for a future project if this lands on 0.
Will some of those things just be able to be done through the regular budget?
Yep, some will.
As opposed to going into capital reserve?
Yep, some, not all. Doors are expensive. And that's exterior doors.
Others?
I think the other thing I look at is from the surveys and from talking to the people who use the SOC specifically, is that they want that school to remain open. And that seems to be the overwhelming thought process. With that being said, given what has been spoken here before, with interest rates the way they are, the supply chain the way they are, I don't think it would be prudent as a board to go forward with something, even if we would double our costs of any project, not knowing where it would be at the end as far as the pricing is concerned. And that's the scary part, is the price. It's not getting the work done, it's how much are we going to have to spend on this project above and beyond what we thought. And that factor being unknown, I would say that I'm an option 0.
Buildings and grounds. Danny, what's your thoughts? I'm calling everybody out here tonight.
Yeah, at this point, I don't, if everything continues to pass out there at the valley and, and people ask me all the time whether or not they need a new roof or not, and I said, it's a leaking, It's not leaking, so if it's not leaking, it's not getting replaced. I mean, you know, you usually have warning signs of things of fatigue and that kind of nature when things are going bad, you know, so I don't think there's any reason for alarm just yet. And when it does happen, it usually is gonna happen big. I mean, you just never know when it's gonna be, but, you know, especially with, you know, the normal decent home being built today is gonna cost you over $300 a square foot. So, with that being said, I mean, just 3-4 years ago, you were building for 150 to 175. So, there's just too many things that are just not falling into place. When we started this process, you know, going on 3 years ago, to think about doing some work, that was a different time. So, you know, right now is a good time just to sit tight and fix what we need to fix and just navigate through it.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm the same boat. I just think it's financially irresponsible to add something like that in right now. So I'm in 0 category.
Yeah, for me, one of the, I guess, the disappointment is that I really would like to see, you know, the air conditioning. I don't want to call it just air conditioning, but the whole air quality aspects of the buildings improved. So option 0 doesn't have that in it. So that's a disappointment in some ways for me. I just don't see spending $5 million or so each building. I've retreated from that position, and we don't even know now whether that $5 million is $5 million. It could be $8 million a building. So, you know, it just kind of where I've landed myself. So.
I think I agree with Sue. October of 23 probably would be a good time to take another serious look. We'll have a read on where enrollment will be, but it may not be until October 24 that a decision would actually be made. So I see us, you know, not going out beyond that period of time before a decision's made. So I would hope, Joe, that, you know, we're going to be able to get by without any major work in that. But as Dan mentioned, there's going to be some maintenance, some things that will have to be done. Another, I guess, question that's being raised in my mind is looking at McCall. This year, with the enrollment figures we currently have, that building, it's functioning at, if you look at the functional building capacity, it's about 63%. So, you know, to have a building that's in essence 60% occupied implies that perhaps there can be some thought given to either reconstruction within that building or some small addition that might allow a grade level to be moved over there. So what I'm thinking is 4th grade. I don't know if that's a viable option, but just the fact that the enrollment and the capacity we already have there. And if I play games with the enrollment figures that we have in our current system, you know, K through 4, as those grade levels move over to McCall, it doesn't go up. It stays pretty steady at around that 60%. And in fact, once the kindergarten group gets over there, we'd be below 60%. So it may be worth our while to actually have Crabtree, you know, look at McCall, which they hadn't done. They just looked at 3rd and 4th, but just have a look at 4th and what might be some possibilities that could have done there. Not knowing whether from a functional standpoint, you know, it would work. But again, those would be questions we could look to have sometime in this next year.
See, that's wisdom right there.
I
best thing I've heard all day.
Well, Dale, before we move fourth grade over there, though, I'd like to hear the, more important than anything to me would be the educational impact and the educational desirability or not of doing that. And I think that would drive any decision in my mind. Is it sound decision? Is it an okay decision? Is it a terrible decision to move fourth grade over there, no matter what the configuration would be? So that's, to me, that's the most important thing, is does it make sense educationally to move fourth grade? Sue, you were saying about the trying to find some metric for the enrollment level, or for the elementary level, before we say, okay, now it's time. Myself, I would want to see the enrollment level at in the elementary at around 500 before I would be comfortable with saying, okay, now's the time, because that puts the Valley numbers very low, and then it just becomes so obvious. Because you know, the folks have said don't close it, and I agree, but there's a point in time where everybody's going to say, okay, it's time. You know, I'd rather get it to that point from the community perspective, so it wouldn't be driven totally by sheer economics, pure economics per se. Because I agree, you know, closing it sooner than later does begin to save some money, but there's more to this than just money in some ways.
But, you know, now you have two nice sized classes over there, but if it decreases where you really have 1.5 at each grade, I mean, that's gonna get tricky with class size issues.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, okay, well, I think, I guess I'm Ron, you wanna weigh in? You're here to discussion, any thoughts?
I think you all know what my position is. Number one, I don't think the enrollment numbers are going down that fast. They're not going down as projected. It bothers me that this can's been kicked down the road for 40 years, and now we're talking, oh, interest rates went up, and it'd be irresponsible to take out a loan. Well, I understand that position, because when it comes time to pay back a loan, the more interest rates, the more you're going to pay. We wouldn't be having this conversation if the can wouldn't have been kicked down the road all this time. So
true, and we started this process 2 years ago. COVID smacked us alongside the head, upset everything, and now we have the aftermath of COVID and everything else with, you know, with what it takes to do a project like this from a financing and a construction cost standpoint. We could never predict this was going to happen. So now we're caught. Now we're between a rock and a hard place, and I don't know what else we do. I mean, if some, you know, I don't know what else we do. If it's going to close at some point in time, it really is, and it's going to close because the numbers aren't there to support it, and most will see that yes, it is time. Sadly, I'm not ready. I'm not willing to force that issue now at this point in time. If someone said you have to decide to do it, well, I don't know what I'd do. So anyway, all right. Well, board, go ahead.
I know what I felt like when the old high school was up and we put a brand new roof on that place. And what was it, within 5 years that we tore it down?
Yep.
So when I look at it from that standpoint, and being on the board, I just I can't see throwing money at something until you know for sure what your outcome's gonna be. It has nothing to do with kicking a can down the road, and from my perspective, it has to do with being responsible with what we're dealing with right now, and with the rates and all that. I mean, at this point, I just think that what we're doing is for our taxpayers right now. So.
Okay, well, obviously no action item. We just wanted to, I think we needed to let administration know our thinking at this point in time too. They wanted to know, so it's sort of a wait and see, I guess. So, all right, unless there's anything else substantial to put into this. We'll move now to the final public comment period, where again, residents, taxpayers can make comment on matters of deliberation or concern or action, and let us know who you are. Except for this guy, we all know who he is.
I'd just like to know if the history classes are given Pennsylvania first, when I think Ron and Dale and me were all in school here. I don't know if there's any other Toursvilleites.
That was Mrs. Wright.
Was it Mrs. Wright? Well, it's Mr. Felix too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that was very important. And I'd also like to say, the gym at the middle school, I went over there to basketball games last year, only a couple, I think, and I mean, it's pretty outdated, but it serves its purpose. But I want to say about the court, I don't know if it was redone over the summer or what. It was, but it needed redone, and that's what because the kids were slipping and sliding and, and whatever. It was like going down to Hershey when they used to put the portable basketball court down there when the Sixers used to play there and put it on top of the ice, It wasn't very nice.
We were gonna do a curling class, but.
You ought to at least bring shuffleboard back. I mean, that's went by the wayside all over. That was big at one time, but, yeah, that's all I wanted to know, because I saw, the kids and that, but it's really too small. I mean, the court and everything else, that's the way they were built in its day, so.
Thanks, Rick. Okay, seeing no one else approaching the podium, we'll close the public comment section at this time, and like I said, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion in a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Meeting's adjourned.
I was turning it off.